Welcome to the Shakaama Live Show with your host, Shakaama. What if I told you the word $1 trillion? Not even 1 trillion, trillions. Trillions of dollars created out of nowhere. Trillions of dollars who ultimately have to pay are the manufacturers of the world. And because the manufacturers have to pay, they have to pass on that amount to somebody, right? And the manufacturers are paying because they want to stay in the game. Because the powers that be have said that this is the new norm. The manufacturers pass this price tag on, this tax on. The workers pay the ultimate price because the workers are fired out of a job. And ultimately, the normal citizens of each country are the ones who literally have to come up with the extra $1 trillion. What I'm talking about is not a conspiracy. What I'm talking about is not some sort of secret. It's very out in the open. It's called climate change. Actually, it was called global warming before. The problem is that global warming started in 1995. And 1995 was the peak year of heat on the planet. Well, because they started in 1995, and they were basing it off of the peak year, they then created models of heat just coming on, and the polar ice caps will be melting, and glaciers would disappear, and polar bears would lose their habitat. 1995 was the peak year of heat on the planet. Oh, there were sporadic spikes along the way. But with anything, you don't look at the spikes. You don't look at the depths. You take the average of it. And the 1995 peak year, I'll do it to your site. 1995 peaked here, and so the average started going down like this. Now, mind you, 1980, scientists had predicted, Time magazine ran with the story that we were headed for a mini ice age. It seems that the powers that be don't read actual scientific journals. They don't hire actual scientists. That whole 90% scientists agree that the global warming is real. You then look at that number and who they're actually who they're talking about. You know, you gotta see who are you talking about. 90%. 90% of the people that they're talking about, scientists agree. 90% of them are actual administrators in the UN. Administrators. They don't have a science degree whatsoever. So this repeated mantra of scientists, a majority of scientists, majority of scientists, majority of scientists, majority of scientists. Just keep repeating it. Majority of scientists, majority of scientists. 90% of them are secretaries. Male, female, whatever. Secretaries. That's it. That's the 90% of scientists. Scientist is a word that you could throw around. Let's get back to that $1 trillion. That sounds interesting, doesn't it? Well, trillions of dollars. Poof! That market came out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. Trading carbon. Trillions of dollars. Trillions of dollars? Now, if you are of some sort of logical mind, you would know that with trillions of dollars at stake, poof, out of nowhere, that they would hedge all of their bets. That they would do whatever it could take to ensure that these trillions of dollars started flowing. Al Gore left vice president office broke. I think he had something like $20,000 in the bank. I have $20,000 in the bank. Or, at times, I have $20,000 in the bank. In my poor stage. Not right now. Don't everybody jump on me and say, hey, you said you didn't have any money. I don't have any money right now. But you know, a couple of years ago when I was rolling in my this website and that website, I was keeping up on this, and then I've slowly spent my money and gave it out to people, and almost fainted. Okay, so Al Gore had $20,000 in the bank when he left office, Vice President of the United States. A couple of years after that, he was worth $200 million. Now, let me reference to that for those of you who are not in finance. If you're worth $1 million, you're doing well for yourself as a super duper peasant. So you are super duper peasant. Let me tell you, if you're worth $1 million, if you live on any coastal city in the United States, London, Paris, depending on where you live, $1 million will get you about, you know, a pack of gum and a roof over your head. I'm not joking. If you have to be, I just watched the whole thing and they broke it down. If you have to be at your job and you're worth $1 million, a lot of times you have to have a roommate. And you're worth $1 million. $1 million doesn't buy what it used to. $1 million when they were saying, oh, I'm a millionaire. That used to be something. The next rung are $10 to $30 million. You can breathe easy. You can buy cars. You can buy homes. Moderate homes. Moderate homes. The person who's worth $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $7 million can't hang with you. If you go out to eat, if your lifestyle changes from 10 million and under versus 10 million to 30 million. It's a complete different lifestyle. Now, this is in general. We're not talking about frugal people who like, what's his name, a Facebook guy who lives down the street from you and has a white picket fence and has a 3-bedroom house. We're not talking about him. We're not talking about a couple of young guys who broke 20 million and they still live with their parents. True story. We're not talking about that. We're talking about in general. 10 to 30 million. You have a different lifestyle from 1 to 7 million. The next rung is 100 million, different lifestyle. And the next rung after that is 200 million. 200 million, you can do stuff like buy a jet. After the next step from 200 million are the ones who are in the nosebleed sections of the approaching a billion. Then it's the billionaires. Then even at the billionaire stage, there are different rungs of billionaires. So Trump is a billionaire, but Trump isn't a 200 billionaire, 300 billionaire, 500 billionaire. Trump isn't that. So Trump has screw you money, but he doesn't have the lifestyle of the people who literally have an entourage of millionaires. The people around him are millionaires, right? His buddies, his servants, right? That's the $200 billion billionaire, right? So Al Gore went from $20,000 in the bank to $200. He's overstepped all of those people. He sold his company, which is probably not a good move, because we're talking about trillions of dollars being traded now. Well, his company probably is in that trillions of dollars are being traded, right? Now, in steps astrophysicists. We understand that scientists need funding. And a lot of times they work for the government or they work for contractors of the government. Facebook is a contractor of the government. Twitter is a contractor of the government. YouTube is a contractor of the government. Google is a contractor of the government. Instagram is a contractor of the government. Anytime you see a military advertisement on a platform, it's safe to assume that they have military contracts somewhere. And they're not just doing advertisement just to be doing advertisement. They probably have a whole thing. In the military, the Department of Homeland Security comes in and says, "Hey, we want to do this," and a part of that, item number 120 is, we will pay for advertisement on your platform. That's item number 120. There's 119 other things that they've already agreed to. Okay, so seriously, if you see a military advertisement on a platform, you can probably bet that it's safe to assume that they're a government contractor. So, government contractors, scientists have to work for labs, and labs are owned by people who are government contractors. You know, the lab is a government contract. Why am I trying to faint? It is not that hot, and I did eat. I'm sorry. I apologize. Anubis, can you hand me that bottle of water? Can you hand me that bottle of water? Huh? Can you? Stop looking at me. Anyway. Okay, so enter the astrophysicists. And the astrophysicists said, so they're interviewing one of the astrophysicists who explains to them that the emails clearly show that they were picking and choosing that 1995, and there was no heat after that, right? 1995 was the peak, and there hasn't been anything since then, and going. It's getting colder and colder and colder. And they said, oh, what about the polar ice caps? The polar ice caps are putting on miles of more ice each and every year. Already, we're in what, August? They're already putting on more ice. But we saw pictures of glaciers, breaking apart. Glaciers break apart all the time and new ones form. It's ice. It's water. That's what water does. Water changes. He said, sure, there's climate change. He said it used to be called global warming, but there was no warming, so they had to change it to something else because it was dropping so low in warming that they were embarrassed. After 15 years of not a single iota of a degree of increase. By the way, I play flamenco guitar. Maybe I'll do that on camera one day. They had, for 15 years, no global warming, not an increase whatsoever of heat. Right? Temperature didn't go up at all. He says, so then they changed it to climate change. Ha ha! I've got you. He said, what? He says there are floods in Iraq. There are heat waves in, where is it, Finland? He said, if you don't know the history of the planet, and if you don't know the history of the weather, if you don't know the history of the climate, that would seem amazing to you. And the news media always goes, oh my God, it's snowing. No, they didn't report that one, right? It snowed in Egypt. They didn't report it. You know who reported it? Twitter. Facebook. People reported it. People like you and me reported that it was snowing in Egypt. Do you see how these people have lost so much control, and they have to get it back? Normal people, normal average people, not only reported it, but gave live feeds to it snowing in Egypt. Okay, let's get back to this. Climate change. And if they did report it, it was some spin that, see, this is climate change. Well, the astrophysicist says, absolutely not. He says, the same exact thing happened 100 years ago. Not 10,000 years ago, 100 years ago. There are people still alive who that happened to. Flooding in Iraq. Heat wave in Finland. I live in Vegas. Now, although the temperatures are still in the hundreds, I've lived in Vegas a long time, and I've lived in this particular trailer home for 2 years. So I have had 2 summers. Actually, it was 3 summers. I came in at the end of a summer, boom, year, right? So I have witnessed 3 summers, but it's going on. It's going on 2 years, right? That's how we calculate it, right? It has been kind of mild to my observation. It's kind of been kind of mild. Also, we have had windstorms, lots of rain, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of rain. Now, what do I attribute that to? I attributed that to exactly what the astrophysicist said. He says, man has nothing to do with it. Well, how could you say that, Miss Doctor, or whatever your name is? He says, man is minuscule in the grand scheme of everything. Man is like an ant to the cosmic forces. He didn't say this. This is me talking. This is how I talk. Man is insignificant to the cosmic forces at work here. He says it is the activities of the sun and the moon. The sun and the moon. The sun is going to exhibit more forces, solar flares, all of that stuff. The IPCC report removed the sun out of their report. All of the data where the sun was impacting it, they removed all of the impact data out of it and presented their report. So it looked like out of nowhere, it was getting hotter. Out of nowhere, it was getting colder. Right? Now, what does the moon have to do? You know, the moon exhibits gravitational pulls on the planet, right? So the moon is going to do stuff like flooding. You're going to have a volcanic activity, more so. You're going to have different weather patterns because the moon is exerting its power over the planet. The astrophysicist has to say this. And why Neil deGrasse Tyson is on the side of it just tells you that he is paid by some. I was so shocked. Why? Because I consider myself scientific. I did very well in college in sciences. In fact, they tried to recruit me, and like a dummy, I said no. That is my biggest regret in life. I said no. He said, you understand it just from these mediocre basic courses. You should get over here. He says, we have people who this is their major and they completely fail at it. what was it? This was the department head, right? Science department head talking to me, who was substituting for a teacher of mine in a biology course, and I was explaining while we were doing our lab work to another student what the department head had said for that particular class. And he was just stunned and amazed. Now, that whole mindset came from me when I used to dance. When you dance, in my company, when you dance, the people that didn't get it, the other students would train the student that didn't get it, and therefore, because then if you train somebody else, you learn it even better, right? So if you're doing boom, you learn boom, you're learning better, and then the other person goes, "What's it?" And you're like, "No, you gotta get your porter bra in there. Come on." So he was amazed, and he says, so I consider myself a scientist, right? So I was very disheartened that Neil deGrasse Tyson Jr. Agreed with the climate change people, whose reports I knew they had taken out the solar activity from the reports. Also, it was discovered that all of this global warming stuff, the climate change stuff, all of that was based on computer models. I thought they were actually observing something. No, it was computer models. So when 1995 happened, they went with computer models and said, it's just going to go hotter from here. It's just going to go up, 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 up. And instead of it going up, 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 it went down, 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 down. Let's do that. All right, since I can't put visuals on there. So they have to change it to climate change. Okay, if you're going to do climate change, then you're going to have to include the sun and the moon. So on the order of quadrillion times the forces that are exerted on the planet, which humans do a factor of 1 versus the quadrillion. It's a human, moon, sun, moon, human. And they removed that out of there. $1 trillion. Out of nowhere, trading. And the guy said, what about carbon? He said carbon has never been a factor in anything. He says I don't even know where they came up with that. If you look at paleontologists, if you look at geologists, and then they do the core samples in the Arctic, and the ice core samples, then it's, oh, here's carbon. 100 years after it was hot. So the idea that carbon has something, he says, the guy said, carbon is nothing. Carbon is not. He said the biggest factor is some chemical that I can't even pronounce. And that's it. He says, and that's not caused by humans at all. He says, well, isn't even 100 years ago, isn't that evidence that humans are the cause of the flood and the heat wave? No, it just means that humans happen to be on the planet at the same time that the weather patterns have changed. That's it. Humans are nothing. We have a giant fireball in the sky. Giant. I don't think people understand just how huge the sun is. And if they really think that they can, I mean, it's like the video of the kid where they smash the cake into the kid's face and the kid gives the finger. What can the kid do? He can't beat up everybody. Right? And everybody laughed at him. It's a terrible video. I guess it's funny if you like people being smashed in the face with cake. But what can the kid do? He can't do it. He's a minor actor in the grand scheme of things. He can't, he can't like bend people over his knee and spank them. You know what I'm saying? And that's humans compared to the sun. We are kids compared to all father son. I think the ancient Africans had the right idea to worship the thing. Be nice to us, you know. Don't give us another one of those flash flood, planetary floods. Happened, what, 3 times that we know of? That we have evidence of? Oh, they're discovering stuff like that, right? So there was a flood, but there was a flood, and a flood, and a flood. And then there was an ice ball, then there was a fireball, then there was a flood, and a flood, and a flood. Yeah, that's our planet. So yeah, there was a great flood, but there were many great floods. And there was a great flood over here, and a great flood over here. There was a great flood in Europe. There was a great flood in Africa. Not so much Africa, but around Africa. And there was a great flood that broke us apart, separated. You know, why don't they have that story in your holy book of why all the continents separated from Mother Africa, who's giant compared to all of the other continents? Did you know that part? So on the maps they have Africa and South America looking like this, when Africa is like this and South America is about like this, and America is like this, and Europe is like this, and Russia is like this, and then China and India are like, China and India are like this. Like, if from space, they've already said, from space, all you can see is Africa. But like the guy who drives a big, huge car that you have to climb up in, and his wheels are super huge. I think some map makers got some issues. Oh, and the planet is upside down. It's not Africa with a point down here. It's Africa with a point up here. But people, I guess people can't comprehend that the planet is upside down. Why is the planet upside down? Well, because north is down here. But sitting on the planet, north is that way, right? Anyway, the astrophysicist confirmed man has nothing to do with it. This is nothing new. So there's trillions of dollars being traded for something that has nothing to do with man. Man is not the cause of it, and man can't change it. And it took hackers to hack the emails of the scientists who did the IPCC report to find out that they knew that they were lying and that they knew that they had tricked everybody. Hackers. Well, maybe 4chan, I don't know. Anyway, there you go. Not a conspiracy. Out in the open. Astrophysicists, other than Neil deGrasse Tyson, and don't listen to the actor who goes by the name of Bill Nye the Science Guy. I think he has a degree in mechanical engineering. That means that he can create something this twisty top. That's his expertise. What? Oh yes. But and then anyway, I'm not going to get into get on Bill Nye. But there you go, trillion dollars. This was a lot to unpack. I thought it was going to go an hour, but it's not an hour. Please like the video. If any of you all ever get in power, please stop this hoax. It is a grab for money. That's all it is. And it is a grab for money at the expense of all of the underdeveloped countries. So all of the underdeveloped countries are forbidden to go through their industrial age. That's what this does. So you're seeing all of these this hunger and all this stuff in certain countries around the globe. Is a part of that thing. And the President of the United States took one look at that Paris Agreement and Accord and said, this is a document saying that the United States is going to pay $1 trillion. And nobody else has ponied up $1 trillion. That's what the document. So people started looking at it like, oh, really? Yep. Nobody else is putting up anything, not even close to that. And it was all voluntary. Everything was voluntary. Everything that every country submitted was all voluntary to what they're... Now, let me get on China. I said this was... I estimated that this would be about an hour. Let me get in on China. China is on the 100-year plan, right? Do you all know about that? The 100-year plan. So China agreed to the Paris Accords, right? And what did they agree to? What did they come up with? What did they volunteer to do? They said, we agree that by 2050, we'll start reducing our carbon emissions. China is, as far as people are concerned, the biggest polluter on the planet. Next comes India. India, I don't believe, agreed to anything. But China said, by 2050, we're going to, I think it's 2050, 2040, we're going to start curtailing our carbon emissions. Okay. The plan was they're going to take from America, take all of the industrial manpower, know-how, intellectual property, and they're going to redo their entire country, which is exactly what they did, so that the economy of China, due to weak presidents of the United States, completely weak, the worst of which was Obama, the weakest, who invited China into the World Trade Organization, where China did not have the economy, didn't have the manufacturing capability, didn't have any financials anywhere near what the other partners had in it. And then China got into preferred trade status, although they have tariffs and laws and regulations that says you cannot come into China unless a Chinese person, a Chinese company, or Chinese person owns 51% of whatever you're doing. China looks out for Chinese, right? For China, right? Anybody confused by that? Anybody disagree with that? Should China not look out for China? But that's what China did, right? So China's economy, they have 1 billion people. The United States only has 340 million now. So although we're the richest country on the planet, China's economy surpassed us because of this 100-year plan. Now, this in it that they were gonna go into tech field. So now the idea is to dominate tech for the future. China is already ahead of the United States in tech, and there you have it. Their agreement was already in the works, and that's what they submitted at Paris. Thank you for watching.